Hi Duncan, great session yesterday down in the sand. Just a quick recap on the key points that we covered. We discussed the changes that you need to make at setup first and foremost. Initially the problem was that you were taking all the bounce and loft off the golf club. You've got too many things in here at setup that are steepening the angle of attack. Whenever you steepen the angle of attack, you de-loft the club and take bounce off the club. So we need to make sure that we've got sufficient bounce to prevent the club digging in the ground too much and sufficient loft to clear the lip of the bunker that's in front of us. If we don't, the whole downswing is an attempt to regain the loft, regain the bounce, assist the ball out the bunker, etc., etc. And that can become very, very chaotic to say the least. So here we've got the upper centre out in front of the lower centre. We've got the ball relatively centred in the stance, certainly a long way in from the centre of the arc. We've got the shaft leaning forward a little bit too much. As that shaft leans forward, the loft comes off and the potential angle of attack is steepened. So we've got a very steep setup at that point. Towards the end of the session, we've shallowed out the setup. We've pushed the lower centre forward fractionally by moving the knees or flexing the knees more towards the target. That's a move that you make in the downswing in golf in general, where the knees drive a little bit too hard, which can then lower the base of the swing or lower the base of the arc, and we discussed the potential pitfalls to that. So we're trying to put a little bit of knee slide in there so we don't need to do it during the downswing. That also adds a little bit of axis tilt. We've also moved the ball nearer to the lead shoulder, so far less back in the stance. Trying to get the shaft sitting more vertically, which will result in less of a descending blow into the golf ball. And we liken the bunker shot to skimming a rock across a lake. You wouldn't do that with a steep angle, you'd do that with a shallow angle. We want to bounce the club out of the sand. We want to strike the sand maybe a ball's width, so 1.5 to 2 inches behind the golf ball that we're trying to hit. And we want to do that with sufficient loft and sufficient bounce. So start of the session, due to the setup, the backswing would ascend, or the club would ascend a little bit too fast. The knees would drive, the hips would push forward, looking for that little bit of axis tilt. Right shoulder would get a little bit too low. Base of the swing, or entry point of the swing, is too far behind the golf ball, resulting in a divot pattern that was very deep, and it was very difficult to control the entry point of the club into the sand. Towards the end of the session, shallower setup, ball forward, shaft vertical, trying to feel like we're going to swing around ourselves a little bit more rather than up and down, so the ascent of the club is a little bit more gradual. The knees don't drive as aggressively. They do drive, that's your way of doing things, but they don't drive as aggressively. You can see the difference between sort of where the hips are coming into delivery versus where they were at setup. So the green line versus the red line. I start to reduce the gap. The entry point of the club now into the sand is much more in keeping with what we're trying to do. And this didn't happen every shot. This is a good example. And the divot is substantially shallower, so less sand coming out, more energy transferred into the golf ball, easier to get the ball out of the bunker, higher shots, etc., etc. So keep working on shallowing the setup. If you shallow the setup and don't quite time the entry into the sand, the result was that the majority of the time you still got out the bunker. However, when the setup was steep and the downswing was just a series of moves to try and shallow and gain loft, the entry was severely out a lot of the time. And when it was, the divots were just too steep, too deep, angle of attack too steep, leading edge exposed, etc, etc. And generally speaking, the ball wouldn't get out of the bunker. So set up as shallow as you can, swing in a shallow manner, and try and get the club entering the sand an inch or two behind the ball that you're trying to get out of the bunker. Good luck with it, and look forward to working with you again in the coming weeks. Well done.